Actually, people haven't yet felt the danger posed by global warming.
But they will, climate scientists say, especially here in Shanghai.
I'm Ben Strauss. I'm a scientist at Climate Central.
That's an independent organization focused on climate change. Strauss says if emissions continue to grow unchecked, global temperatures will rise by 4 degrees Celsius, that's a little over 7 degrees Fahrenheit, by the end of the century. And seas will eventually rise, affecting 145 million people along China's crowded coast.
Shanghai has by far the largest number of people on land that would be submerged in a 4 degree C warming scenario. Almost twice as many as the next largest urban area, which happens to be Tianjin, also in China.
Climate Central estimates water would flood most of Shanghai's financial district, home to some of the world's tallest skyscrapers. Chang, the 27-year-old who sells wealth products here, says he'd hate to see that happen.
Of course I'm worried. If a great city like Shanghai is no longer, it'll be a shame, right?
But others seem unfazed. Scientists say the flooding could occur slowly over time. Most people in Shanghai focus on commerce and their immediate lives. An art student named Hu said he'd read about the threat. Actually, there are many reports like this, he says. I don't take them seriously. My classmates paid little attention to this issue because it has zero relevance to our majors. Frank Life at NPR News, Shanghai.
And it's WNYC and WNYC.org. Coming up next, Marketplace with a look at the upcoming climate conference and something called the free rider problem.
So long as there are almost any free riders, these people have a corrosive effect on cooperation by the cooperators, and the cooperation just drops over time.
Freeloading on a global scale. That's Marketplace. Up next, right here on WNYC. Well, tonight it will be mostly clear, lows getting down into the mid-30s. Tomorrow, Wednesday, sunny with a high near 48 degrees. Currently, it is 44 degrees under clear skies in Central Park at 6:30.
WNYC receives support from the New Jersey Performing Arts Center, presenting Michael Feinstein's Sinatra Centennial Celebration. Mr. Feinstein will be joined by a 17-piece band for a salute to Frank Sinatra on his 100th birthday, Saturday, December 12th. NJPAC.org. Marketplace is supported by Invest Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland, a European location with a skilled, agile workforce focused on results. More at investni.com. On the eve of the big Thanksgiving travel day, a worldwide warning about travel. From American Public Media, this is Marketplace. Marketplace is supported by Malwarebytes, used by over 27 million folks worldwide to protect against ransomware, identity theft, and other advanced online threats. More at malwarebytes.org. And by T. Rowe Price. In today's uncertain markets, institutions, advisors, and individuals choose T. Rowe Price to find global investment opportunities. T. Rowe Price, invest with confidence. And by Logitech, offering the Harmony Elite Universal Remote Control for home theater and smart home devices. Learn more at logitech.com/harmony. From San Francisco, I'm Molly Wood, filling in for Kai Rizdal. It's Tuesday, November 24th, and thank you for joining us today. Now, tomorrow, as you know, is a pretty big travel day. But in the wake of the Paris attacks and other terrorist activities around the globe, the State Department has just issued a worldwide travel alert for Americans traveling abroad. It says terrorist groups are continuing to plan attacks, and it warns Americans to be careful in crowded places and be prepared for extra security checks. But business travelers aren't necessarily canceling their international trips over the warning. Marketplace's Nancy Marshall-Genzer explains. The State Department alert doesn't say don't travel, but
just be vigilant.
Karen Christensen is a Deputy Assistant Secretary at the State Department.
You have to think in terms of what might be an attractive target, where there are lots of people gathering, and that could be a public gathering, it could be public transportation.
Christensen says she understands that business people need to travel. She just says make your decisions carefully. The Global Business Travel Association, a trade group in Washington, wanted to know what businesses were deciding about international travel. So they did a survey of corporate travel managers a few days after the Paris attacks.
It was interesting because it found that 3/4 of U.S. business travel buyers say their company's travel to Europe will remain largely unaffected.
That's Shane Downing, the association's lobbyist and director of government affairs. He says only a small number of the companies surveyed temporarily suspended travel to Paris. Carol Roth will keep up her business travel.
I will, otherwise I'm out of a job.
Roth is a deal strategist who makes a lot of speeches and TV appearances that require travel. She is thinking about canceling a family trip abroad next month. She's a lot more willing to forego personal travel. It's not essential, and it can be dangerous. You're out exploring popular, crowded places. Not so with business travel.
Because, I usually spend all of my time sitting in a hotel or a conference room somewhere. I will tell you, there are actually days when I travel places where I don't even open the window shades of my hotel room.
Roth says maybe that's not glamorous, but it's safe. In Washington, I'm Nancy Marshall-Genzer for Marketplace.
If you've followed our education coverage over the past several years, you've heard a lot of stories about efforts to get more students from low-income families into and through college. That's because in this economy, a degree is still widely viewed as maybe the only reliable path out of poverty and into the middle class. To that end, federal education grants for low-income students have doubled during the Obama administration to more than $30 billion a year. So it's surprising to learn that despite these efforts, the percentage of low-income students enrolling in college right out of high school has actually dropped quite a bit. From the Marketplace Education Desk at WYPR in Baltimore, Amy Scott looked into why.
This is a bit of a shocker. Between 2008 and 2013, the percentage of all high school graduates who went straight to college dipped by 3 percentage points. Among students in the lowest income bracket, enrollment dropped by 10 points, from 56% to 46%.
Other things suggest we should be seeing increases.
That's Terry Hartle, who co-authored the report from the American Council on Education, which represents colleges and universities.
High school graduation rates have gone up, student aid has increased dramatically, and college access programs to help low-income students are widespread.
Hartle has some theories. A stronger job market may have lured more low-income students straight into the workforce. Rising tuition prices and questions about the value of a degree may have turned others away. Hartle says there's even some chance the data from the U.S. Census Bureau are wrong. Whatever the cause, Duane Matthews with the Lumina Foundation says the findings are troubling.
Because all of the evidence that we look at suggests that people who do not complete some level of post-secondary education are going to be significantly disadvantaged throughout their life, both economically and socially.
Julie Ajinkya is with the Institute for Higher Education Policy. She points out that over the longer term, enrollment has increased. Low-income students are also less likely to start college immediately after high school. And she says it's going to take time for new efforts to pay off, like simplifying the financial aid process and improving college counseling in high school.
The more that we actually just divert and invest resources towards these successful interventions, it's just a matter of time before we start to see the payback.
And Ajinkya and others say without the huge investment in college access, the numbers would be worse. I'm Amy Scott for Marketplace.
On Wall Street today, conflicting data. One report said wages are up and the economy is growing. The other said U.S. consumer confidence is the lowest it's been in more than a year. In the face of such confusing guidance, markets were up. Why not? We'll have more when we do the numbers. Another story about travel this week. All those airport passengers will be hotly contested business for rideshare and taxi drivers. And airport curbs are one of the big battlefields in the fight between car services. Many airports don't actually allow Uber and Lyft to pick up passengers at the curb, including Hartsfield-Jackson in Atlanta, which the FAA says is the nation's busiest airport. But the Atlanta city government and airport officials could soon end that ban. Johnny Kaufman from WABE rode with drivers from both camps to learn what's at stake.
Scott Ledford got the cabbie gene.
Probably. I kind of have it in my blood.
He says his grandfather founded Atlanta's Checker Cab Company. His father worked there, and now his cousins run the business. Ledford drove me to Atlanta's airport during rush hour. At the curb, passengers wait for friends, family, and sometimes Uber drivers, but not taxis. Ledford and other cabbies have to wait in a line nearby.
People flag me or walk up to me all the time and say, hey, can I get a cab? I tell them, I say, I get big trouble for picking y'all up here.
Right now, it's also illegal for rideshare drivers to pick up passengers along the curb. Lyft drivers tend to stay away from the airport because the pink mustaches on their cars give them away. But some Uber drivers still stop for passengers there. That bugs Ledford, and he's worried if the rules change, there would be traffic jams.
See, and it gets crowded when it's real busy. And for them to come in here too, it's really would add to the congestion.
If I could pick them up from the airport, that's all I do.
That's Uber driver Denise Edwards.
The other runs I wouldn't do.
She says she'd make around $150 extra a day if she was allowed to pick up passengers at the airport.
If they open the airport for us to go out there, I could make, oh my God, within 4 hours, I'm done.
But taxi driver Ledford says if that happens, he's worried the whole ride service industry would go under. He says there would just be too many drivers at the airport, one of the best places in Atlanta to meet passengers.
Uber's hired so many drivers, it's going to be hard for anybody to make any money.
Many of those Uber drivers, like Edwards, aren't on the road as much as a typical cabbie. She's a stay-at-home mom who lives near Atlanta's airport.
See, it's so close to home for me. I won't have to go that far. I won't have to take as many trips as I do. I'll be fine. I'll be just fine.
Airports in some cities have special zones where Uber drivers can meet passengers. Then, they block the app from everywhere else at the airport. Edwards says that would slow things down even more.
I think they should keep it the way it is. Don't put a area for the Uber people. Just let it be fair game. Whoever they call and whoever get that, that's who you go with.
Joseph Sweeterman is a transportation professor at DePaul University in Chicago. He says if Atlanta officials allow rideshare drivers to make pickups at the airport, there'll be more congestion. But
I think a lot of people are saying that, a little congestion at the airport is a small price to pay for giving people that demand responsive service that it gives them a better experience.
And city officials say passengers are the priority. That means cabbie and Uber drivers could end up in long lines when Atlanta and airport officials decide on new rules in the coming months. The cabbie Scott Ledford seems prepared for whatever comes.
Got to make it work for all of us, I guess, somehow. We're all going to find our place in this world.
The question is whether rideshare drivers or cabbies will have a harder time finding their place and their passengers. In Atlanta, I'm Johnny Kaufman for Marketplace.
Today, Blue Origin, the private spaceflight company that was founded by Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos, announced that it had safely landed its unmanned New Shepard rocket after the rocket soared to an altitude of 62 miles. It's the first time a private company has landed a spent rocket. Usually they crash land, despite costing millions of dollars to build. It's also a nice little ego boost for Bezos because SpaceX, which is the company founded by rival eccentric billionaire Elon Musk, has yet to accomplish the feat. And that, by the way, led to a pretty amazing bout of chest thumping and shade throwing on Twitter as Musk congratulated Bezos, but couldn't refrain from pointing out that the Blue Origin mission was only suborbital and not really a space mission. But let's focus on the bigger deal here, space tourism. Marketplace's Annie Baxter has more.
On Blue Origin's website, there's a little note from Jeff Bezos boasting about the New Shepard's uneventful landing, and there's some footage of it.
Touchdown. Engine stop. Welcome back, New Shepard.
Marco Cazares is with the aerospace consultancy Teal Group. He says private aerospace firms really want to be able to get any part of a rocket back after launch to reuse.
Particularly the engines, because that's what costs a lot of money.
And lowering those costs could make space tourism more viable. So says travel industry analyst Henry Hartevelt with Atmosphere Research Group. That said, Hartevelt doesn't want to exaggerate how much has changed since the New Shepard's safe landing.
So we're still many light years away from space travel being commonplace or even cheap. Don't expect to see ads advertising $69 trips into space anytime soon.
Hartevelt notes that another firm, Virgin Galactic, has sold tickets to the edge of space for $250,000 a pop. It's unclear when that flight will happen. A Virgin Galactic test flight crashed last year. Daryl West at the Brookings Institution says safety has been the other big hurdle holding back space tourism.
And as long as we can make progress on the safety front, this is a market that could open up in the next 5 to 10 years.
The New Shepard was unmanned this week, but Jeff Bezos reportedly expects it will be just a couple years of test flights before passengers can hitch a ride. I'm Annie Baxter for Marketplace.